Well, good afternoon, I guess, everyone. Yeah, it's 1 o'clock our time. Welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 13th day of November 2019. Well, I just finished watching the first set of hearings for impeachment, and it was quite interesting. Really didn't learn anything we didn't already know, especially if you've already read those transcripts, but it was nice to hear these two people say things out loud. So that was interesting. I wanted to just briefly go over a little bit of the astrological information. We're in the crone phase of the full moon. If you check out the blog over at imsteppingaside.com, I took a cool picture of what ultimately was the crone moon this morning as it was beginning to set. So it's daylight when I took it, and I also got another cool one of it last night. Through my bedroom window. I've started taking some pictures through that because it gives it an interesting effect. And so anyhow, but that's the one I used. I used the daytime one, this morning one, on the correspondences and astrological information post that's up on the blog. So if you want to check that out, it's kind of a cool picture. Normally I don't get a picture of the full moon in the daytime. So I ran out there before I lost it completely, and got a quick picture before the hearings started. So anyway, you can see what that looked like. Also, it's in Gemini in the fourth house right now. So, you know, Gemini's an air sign, so you're talking chatty and personal and all of that. Fourth house is about, you know, things you got to get done. It's also about endings. It's about home and hearth. Let's see. The sun is in the ninth house in Scorpio, I believe. Expanding your mind with the ninth house. Avoid drama with Scorpio and deceptive behavior in relationships. The sun conjunct Mercury. Still positive news today again. Ideas are flowing, even though, you know, we might have some problems with Mercury retrograde. Conversations are still flowing fairly well today. Sextile Pluto. Here we have a litile issue here, because the sun is while the sun is sextiling Pluto, the moon isn't. The moon is sesquisquaring. It's like a square, okay? Is sesquisquaring Pluto. So in that respect, we're talking about trouble communicating. But with the sun, it flows really well. So I don't know. You know, the Pluto with the sesquisquare with the moon, that may be more feeling the retrograde impact. I don't know. But in any event, you know, I suppose it's going to be what it's going to be. You're either going to do well or you're not. So don't take it too seriously. Just sort of step back and, you know, find a center point and just don't engage if it gets like that. So again, Mercury, ninth house Scorpio, intense communications, look under the surface. Sextile the sun with Mercury, you're looking at greater concentration and focus. Venus and Sagittarius in the 10th house, we're talking about positive career experiences today. So you should be able to have some harmony on the work front, I would think. A square with Neptune, between Venus and Neptune, there is a little bit of indecision still going on, which also may be reflecting retrograde with Mercury. But get out of your head and just shift into something different. If you can't, you know, if you get too indecisive about something, you can't make a decision. Just go find something else to do, take a walk, and it will likely, your head will likely clear, and it should be fine. Well, I just dropped the Knight of Pentacles. So remember that one. I don't know if there was anything else that I put down here. Mars and Libra in the 8th house. That's more about sexuality and business concerns. The thing about the business side of it, make sure you've paid your bills. You were kind of in the middle of the month, and that's always a good time to take stock if you know you have bills that come in the middle of the month, or if they come in after the 1st and you're accustomed to paying for them on the 1st. You know, you might miss something. So just double check that you've paid everything. I think that's it. of everything I put down. So in any event, I didn't want to take a whole lot of time because we're late as it is. Tomorrow, I'll be back, though, at my normal time because I don't think we have any hearings tomorrow. So in any event, there's one on Friday, but I don't do this on Fridays. So let's go ahead and go ahead and take the first 3 cards. And if this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you so much for coming by. If you come back, thank you so much for sticking with me and joining our tarot and rune family. And again, if you have another interpretation, include it in the comments, and let's get a discussion going. We're all just here to learn. And there's no tarot reader around that knows everything, and I certainly don't. So, I'm just a witch that likes tarot and divination methods, so it's kind of why I do it. It's just something I like to share. So, anyhow, we're all students, and we have to think that way. We're not the sage, we're not the master. We're all students. So, in any event, let's take our first 3 cards. And I do take the 13th card each time just for randomness sake. In a regular reading, I don't. Well, I'll show you first. Here I've got the second card of the major arcana, the High Priestess. Intuition. She brings us down through the veil in the Kabbalistic tree of life. It's about polarity. As above, so below, mystery. We have the 8 of Pentacles. So that's the second card. We'll decide if we're going to move the cards around. You can. Even in defined readings, when you're using a defined spread like the Celtic Cross or a past, present, and future and all of that, you can always move your cards around especially if you've got court cards in there, because they like to talk to one another. So you want to have them interact if at all possible. So do move your cards around if you feel like something, you lay out a bunch of cards and you're just like, yeah, I don't know what this means. Just try moving them around and see if it brings some light to the whole reading. We'll decide if we need a 4th card. We may. We had the Page of Swords yesterday, and that was my 3rd card that I put down. Again, student, seeker. It's the air element, so you're talking about swords is the air element, so you're talking about maybe a message. He's pointed toward the future, so you could also be a new direction based on some new information. Here, the 8 of Pentacles, we're working diligently on our craft, and it's for our home. It's for our legacy. It's to make ends meet. It's for our family. And so with the 8, you're talking about a different focus. You're talking about more of a leadership type of focus. So when you think somebody who fully accepts and embraces the responsibilities of life and is more than happy to manifest, whatever it is that they think they need. You can see the town in the background, but he's really just focused on creating, isn't he? And manifesting his future. And again, you have the High Priestess here. You see pomegranates in the back, and if you could see behind her, they would be arranged in the tree of life. They would do that. You see the pillars of Solomon there, dark and light. You see her with her foot on a crescent moon below, and you see the triple aspects featured in her headdress or crown. You see the full moon, and you see the maiden and mother on either side. It's a card of balance, basically. Let's see if there's anything else I'm forgetting. We already said intuition and all of that. Let's go to the wisdom, divine feminine revelation, compassion, change, alignment. You can look at the pillars, which are a running theme. And it doesn't have to be, structure in the same way. It could be 2 trees, it could be 2 mountains. Whenever you see an archway is another thing, or an opening, a gateway of some kind, that's what you're talking about. You're talking about a gateway or the middle path also. But here, she wants to be in balance, but she's balancing spirit with form here. So there's an air of mystery to her. She basically comes through the veil for us on our behalf. From non-physical form to physical form. If we put her in the middle, then we can talk about maybe balancing the material side of self, that earthy, I have to work, I have to go to work, I'm going to make my way, I'm going to earn my paycheck, I'm going to come home, give it to the family, we're going to, raise our standard of living by all of the effort that I'm making. That's Pentacles, okay? And with the 8, that's what he's doing. Now, the Page of Swords is maybe talking about a new direction. So you balance out the structure with heading off in a new direction. So if you're going to do this today, if that's what it's saying don't take your eye off the ball, basically. Do what you want to do, but do it in a way that is still going to preserve what you have, growing your own wealth, growing your own, security or something. So I think that today, I think that the hearings have released us from their thrall or something. And so I think that this really has to do with our own personal life today, which is great. I don't have to read it both ways, which is nice. It gets a little old having that guy factor into our experiences, doesn't it? It's just really disturbing most of the time. But here, I really think that this is about who we are and how we're making our way in the world. Be open to new experiences. That's, again, open to new ideas. The Page of Swords is telling us that, to be open to new ideas. But at the same time, we still have to, whatever that's doing, whatever we're doing with that, it has to be in service to who we are and to our foundation, to our home, to our structure, to our stability, to our foundation, to our security, to our wealth, our legacy, all of that. You have to find a way to balance all of that. So if you've been experiencing that where you're just a little too focused on other things maybe, or maybe it's that you're so stuck in what you're doing that you can't allow for new experiences. And I think what this is telling us is that you need to do that. Here we have I was, which is the 13th rune of the Elder Futhark, which aligns with today's numerology. We have a numerology of 4, but it's, again, it's about structure and foundation, right? But you could also look at this as I do as the master witch number. We have master numbers of 11, 22, 33, 44, and all of that. Well, I add one more as the master. I was born on the 13th, and I'm a witch. So I don't know. I just always viewed the 13 as something that is mystical and powerful. I've told folks on this before that in the past, I used to wake up at 3:13. In fact, I'm at 13 minutes right now as I'm talking about it. So there's another synchronicity there. I'm at 13 and a half minutes here. But I used to wake up at 3:13 every morning, and I did this for, at least 5 years or better. And so basically what I think it was doing was telling me you're out of balance and you need to bring this back you need to find your resting point, because it was after that I got really ill. And I stayed that way, again, for 13 years before I became a cannabis. I had severe rheumatoid arthritis. I probably had been developing it for a while, but at one point it just exploded and went severe, and that's when I got diagnosed. Before, it was just, I could try to attribute it to other things, right? Well, then I finally got the diagnosis and I realized, well, no, this is something, right? So I was ill for 13 years and I healed with cannabis, and I went into remission in 2011. But the point is that the 13, it's just weird. It's like I was out of balance, and because of that, it was signaling, honey, if you don't stop, if you don't, get yourself into some kind of mind, body, spirit balance here, because I was upset a lot back then. And so I was not in balance. I was having a hard time. I was struggling. And so consequently, as I'm trying to gain a better balance, I got ill. So, that's what I think it was telling us. But here we're looking at. It was just alerting me to, hey, you're going in a direction you shouldn't be going. Well, here we have I was, again, the 13th rune of the Elder Futhark, and what it's talking about is, I mean, you can see Laguz upside down and regular. I hate to say, I would look at Laguz reversed as turned the other way, but this one's upside down, and so you're looking at Laguz forward and reversed in a sense. And you're basically looking at, in the center, you have Isa. But this is about flow. And what this is the flow. It's the as above, so below rune, right? Well, a lot of them are. But this one in particular, because it's really binding. And you can use I was in a bind rune to bind energies together in the bind rune. But what it's doing is it's binding together spirit with ego, and it's basically heavier. It's more heavily weighted on spirit because of the downward flow. But basically, it's this back and forth, interaction between spirit and form, or spirit and ego, or personality. And the notion of this is that you want to keep it all in balance. Personally, with ascension upon us, I would have more heavily weighted on the idea of spirit. In fact, I was working today on it. I always have 2 books in the hopper at any given time. One of them is a manual. It's just going to be a short one. I don't think that we need to, sometimes, with the manuals and stuff, how to do this, meditation, you get all of the same sort of thing, right? And so it's just repetition. I find that the more repetition and the more complicated it is, I can't do it. And so I came up with some things that work for me to help me align in my own source presence, and that's what the book's going to be about. But basically, you have to see yourself as source presence. You cannot see yourself as this body. Even though you see it, you have to know that it's simply a vehicle, and you have to know it, right? So anyway, that's what that's about, and I don't know when it's going to come out. It's mostly fleshed out. It's mostly there, but now I'm adding a little bit more nuance to it, I guess you could say. There's a couple of other techniques I want to put in there. Some of them are very meager, and I need to add more stuff to make it a little more clear what I'm talking about. But that's basically what it's going to be about, and so it's fun. I've been really enjoying doing it. The other one's a novel that I've been working on, actually longer than this one. And that one, I'm into the new section of where they're going. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And basically it's there that the crisis and all of that and all of the whatever will happen. It will happen there, not the run up to there. So anyway, but that's what we have. We have I was, and in a very real sense, I was not only aligns with today, but it also aligns with the high priestess, doesn't it? Because that's what she's doing. She's expressing spirit into form, is what she's doing. Let's see what that one's on its side. Can't tell what it is that way. Let's see. Oh, well, okay. Oh. Well, I did it again. I got Caput Draconis again. New beginnings. This is what we had yesterday. We had Caput Draconis. The 2 Draconi, we got Caput and Kata. Kata is the evil one. That's the tail of the dragon. It's governed by the south node of the moon. So you're talking, past life, maybe karma, considered evil by, snowflakey geomancers of old. I don't know. But you have a passive influence, the 2 dots there, for fire. And you have active influences for air, water, and earth. If you're going to drink apple juice, it has to be Honeycrisp. I don't know. Although, if it's not that, then it's any apple off of one of my trees. Because they're actually better. And I think Honeycrisp is the best tasting apple juice around, but actually mine are better. And I have 36 apple trees, and I don't know. They're all different kinds. My husband would bring home apples from the store, different ones, like, why are you buying that? And he just got them for the apple seeds, right? And you think, oh, you can't grow apple trees from that. Well, yes, you can. Now, they don't produce apples for a while. It takes a while. But now, I mean, we've been growing them, I don't know, since maybe the 80s. We've been here since 81. I, I think it started it in the 80s and 90s, late 80s maybe. Anyway, they're producing like crazy. And I mean, we're making apple wine. We're making, and some of it we're going to turn into apple cider vinegar. But anyway, I don't know why I went off onto that, but anyway, we have Caput Draconis, and so we're talking about new beginnings. Sometimes my head just goes there. Anyway, I was watching Doc Ram yesterday on Leak Project, and Richard Allen Miller, and he actually lives in Oregon. He lives in Southern Oregon, and I tend to think like he does. He's kind of all over the place, you know. And eventually he'll come back. I looked at my husband. I go, oh God, that's me, isn't it? I'm like the female Doc Ram. He's like, uh-huh. Anyway, that's okay. I'm in good company, I guess. Anyway, but we're talking about, you know, new beginnings, and I think that if we are unaccustomed to, because the new beginnings could be about a new perspective here, and I think that's what the Page of Swords is suggesting, that we need to, perhaps we've just been, and this was something we talked about last week, wasn't it? That if you're just working, and you forget to come home, that was from last week. I wonder if we're still dealing with that. I wonder if issues of that are still coming up. That we're maybe just, it's fine to be focused on work, but at some point we have to maybe consider other options. So maybe, maybe this is not, maybe this is the preparation. And there's your new direction. So maybe all of this diligent work is about to pay off. And what did I see here? Let me look. Let me find it. Or did I take it out? Oh, Sun conjunct Mercury, positive news today. You see, this could be the positive news. Perhaps you've put in your time, and now it's time to express it somewhere else. But again, don't be so focused on, you know, the new that you do it at the expense of the time you've put in. Make sure that whatever the choice is that's coming your way, the opportunity that's coming your way, maybe you need to just be certain that it actually honors the time that you've put in. Sometimes we take the first thing that comes along, and sometimes we have to do that, right? But when we don't, we really need to think. So much of the time, we take whatever we can and we're not happy there. We're afraid to leave because maybe we're getting paid a nice amount of money. And so we're afraid to leave because maybe the next place we go isn't so good. We think it might be, but maybe it's not. So all I'm saying is that so much of the time we find ourselves in the position of having to work in places that really doesn't fulfill us spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, what have you. And if a new opportunity comes up that will do that for you, again, make sure it honors, the time and the effort that you've already put in, so that whatever you do doesn't, ruin that, basically, because it can. If you find yourself in a position where you think you can, work your trade, but you get there and suddenly you're not allowed to do anything, that's going to frustrate the heck out of you, right? And that's the kind of, transactional exchange I'm talking about here. So in any event, that would be really cool, wouldn't it? Awesome. Well, okay, I think that's it. I think we've done enough damage here today. We're going to close a little more quickly here because I think my husband, he's mowing we always mow an edge around our top pasture because ultimately we can see where the irrigation water goes better that way than if it's all just grown up everywhere. Anyway, he's out there doing that right now, getting the final mow done around the edge of the pasture. And then that way in the spring when we have to burn, you've already got green grass coming up, and so it creates a natural break. Well, anyway, life on a farm. Anyway, thank you so much for coming by. Again, check out the blog if you would like to do that. I'd really love you to do it. I'm kind of proud of it. I finally found a format, a theme that I'm happy with. I mean, as happy as I can be, right? Because it's always a work in progress. But in any event, I'll close here while I still have a voice. Thank you so much for coming by. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.